Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Ka Giridhari Shri Shri Radharaman Bihari Ji Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ji Ki Jai Jai Shri Vishnu Pada Paramahans Parivajaka Sutra Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Shri Vamana Goswami Maharaj Shri Vana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Sutra Shri Bhaktivedanta Shri Vamana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Sutra Shri Bhaktivedanta Shri Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Sutra Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Sutra Shri Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Sutra Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Vishnu Pada Shri Bhakti Shri Guru Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Pravishna Shri Lajag Shri Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai Sachidananda Sapta Goswami Shri Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Sarabhama Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Shri Rupana Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gogiri Raj Maharaj Ki Jai Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Jamuna Ganga Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Janata Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Samgata Guru Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vandeham Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namayom Vishnu Padaya Gaura Prishtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Vana Iti Namine Vandeham Bhakti Chakoram Gauranganija Prishtitam Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Samivanam Namastubhyam Shri Radhekanistitam Rasayana Kat Amritam Sankirtanam Anandadham Goswaminam Vanam Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachiranandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanoga Varayate Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhye Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Om Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavate Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Mukam Karati Vachalam Purvama Gete Giring Jat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Madhubala Didi, Lalit Mohini Didi. First of all, my obeisances to my spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pada Stutra Shatri Srimad Bhaktivedanta, Shri Vana Goswami Maharaj, Paranguru Nitile Pravistam Vishnu Pada, Shri Bhaktivedanta, Vamana Goswami Maharaj, Paranguru Nitile Pravistam Vishnu Pada, Shri Bhaktivedanta, Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Shri Rupana Guru Varga, to Shri Bhaktivedanta Thakur Sapta Goswami, to all Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, to all of you who will hear in the past, in the present, and in the future this recording of this study of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur's Bhakti Tattva Vivek. So this is the old English edition of this book. I think it's the first one. There's a more recent edition you can find by GVP, the Gaudiya Vedanta Publications. So this edition here was made in the year 2000. First printing, 1997. So this was one of the first books, one of the first books that came out by Srila Gurudeva, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in English. So this is a very, very important book, even though it's very short, very small book. It's very, very deep. So Srila Gurudeva told me to study this online in English. So starting today, class 1, praying for the mercy of Srila Gurudeva, all Srila Rupana Guru Varga, that we can take these words that we'll read here, this Harikatha in our hearts, that this can nourish our creeper of bhakti, and that we may be able to understand and analyze and comprehend all these topics, and this may help us in the path of bhakti, discerning what is the nature of true devotion. May Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur bless us, and Srila Gurudeva and Srila Param Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta, Srila Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who manifested this book. So the book says, Bhakti Tattva Viveka, the true nature of devotion, by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So I know this time, so let's stick with this time, 8 p.m. Wednesday. Even though now actually our Gurudev is live, there's also live stream going on Vana Madhuryam. So please, whoever can go and hear Gurudev directly, live stream, Shabda Brahma in English. Gurudev is speaking. Even I was hearing, but I thought, okay, let's just stick with one time because then it's easier for those also who want to attend. And then because Gurudev travels so much, so later on he'll change his schedule. But now he's live on Vana Madhuryam giving class in Brazil to the devotees in Tajai. So Bhakti Tattva Viveka, as you can see, deliberation upon the true nature of devotion. Deliberation upon the true nature of devotion. Composed by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Translated from the Hindi edition of Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. Gurudeva Publications. Oh, you see the edition which is in the internet is from 2012. You can see here. Introduction. Preface, translated from the Hindi edition. The unlimited glories of devotion unto the Supreme Lord, Bhagavad Bhakti, are visible in the Puranas, Shrutis, Smritis, the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana, as well as in the literatures of famous Vaishnava preceptors, Acharyas. By understanding the constitutional nature of unalloyed devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, and genuinely engaging in its practice, one can easily cross the ocean of nescience and achieve life's ultimate goal of love for the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Krishna Prem. What to speak of the genuine practice of Shuddha Bhakti? Even the attainment of a slight semblance of Bhakti can award the fourfold boons of economic development, Artha, religiosity, Dharma, sense gratification, Kam, and liberation, Moksha. Therefore, people in general become attracted towards the cultivation of Bhakti. But, due to being ignorant of the true nature of unalloyed devotion, they usually come in contact with pretentious devotees who desire only wealth, women, and fame, and under their influence, either practice false devotion or adopt sentiments that are against the principles of pure devotion, all the while imagining them to be pure bhakti. Coming under the influence of those desiring impersonal liberation, they practice either a shadow or a reflection of real bhakti and deceive themselves. Thus, they do not achieve the real fruit of bhakti. Wow, so actually in this first paragraph here, Param Gurudeva has already kind of told the gist of this book, the whole book, because in this whole book, the book is comprised of four chapters. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur will clearly explain what is pure bhakti, the intrinsic nature of bhakti, and then he'll say an analysis of bhakti abhas, or the semblance of bhakti. Chapter 3, analysis for the natural attributes of bhakti, and chapter 4, analysis for the qualification of bhakti. So here we can see Param Gurudeva already saying that so many people actually, they don't know what is pure devotion. They're ignorant of the true nature of the pure devotion. So they come in contact with pretentious devotees who desire only wealth, women, and fame, and under the influence either practice false devotion or adopt devotional sentiments that are against the principles of pure devotion, but imagining them to be the pure devotion, pure bhakti. Coming under the influence of those desiring, so this is one, and then also another situation, coming under the influence of those desiring personal liberation, they practice either a shadow or a reflection of real bhakti and deceive themselves. So in this book, we'll analyze what is pure bhakti, what is the shadow of pure bhakti, what is the reflection of pure bhakti.
So depending on which bhakti, this non-pure bhakti that some people are doing, we can categorize. And it's actually, there's so much, like, it's very spread out. Sometimes this, in this world, is bhakti abhas, semblances of pure bhakti. But if we engage in unalloyed devotion, in Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion, then one can easily cross the ocean of nescience and achieve life's ultimate goal of Supreme Lord for Shri Krishna. And another point, very important, Parang Gurudeva said, is that if you perform Shuddha Bhakti, which is the topmost goal of human life, the other attainments of this life, for example, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, they come automatically. And even if you practice a semblance of Bhakti, Bhakti Abhas, like sometimes Gurudev says, Bhakti is so powerful that, for example, even if you just wear tilak, wear kantimala, hold the japamala in your hand, maybe you don't even chant. You're not even chanting one round. You're actually criticizing others, whatever. But in India, if you wear this Vaishnava cloth, automatically you'll get food, people will give you prestige, they will invite you to their house, take prasad in my house, like you automatically get good food, for example, and name, fame, and reputation. So just to give an example, because bhakti is the topmost goal of human life and the topmost attainment. Bhakti is Maharani, a queen, right? So all these other goals of human life, for example, getting money, artha, religiosity, mundane religiosity, dharma, sense gratification, and liberation, they serve Bhakti Devi just like maid servants. Therefore, people in general become attracted toward the cultivation of bhakti. So, but people don't know how to achieve the real fruit of bhakti because they are not following pure bhakti, because they don't know what is pure bhakti. Hence, the acharya of the profound science of devotional mellows, the most merciful Srila Rupa Goswami, has explained in his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu the true nature of unalloyed devotion on the basis of scriptural evidences. Right? So, who spoke? Srila Rupa Goswami. He explained what is the true nature of unalloyed devotion. So we know that the verse which describes what is pure bhakti, Anabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadyanavritam, Anukulyena Krishna Noshilanam Bhakti Ruttama, is right in the beginning of this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is like the grammar of our bhakti. It's like everything we need to know, all the definitions of what is bhakti, what is not bhakti, kinds of bhakti, levels of bhakti, types of ras, everything is in this book. What is bhakti sadhana? It's like a grammar. Just like for a language you have grammar, the grammar will explain all the rules of that language. In the same way, for our spiritual life, bhakti, this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, says everything. Of course, also you have Hari Bhakti Vilasa that also describes many important things too as well. But Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and John Lamani are like these grammar books. So in this book, Rupa Goswami described the devotion, unalloyed devotion. Moreover, he has described the nature of Chal Bhakti. Chal means pretentious devotion. Abhas Bhakti, a semblance of devotion. Pratibimba Bhakti, a reflection of devotion. Karma Mishra Bhakti, devotion mixed with fruitive action. Jnana Mishra Bhakti, devotion mixed with impersonal knowledge. Aropa Siddha Bhakti, endeavors that are indirectly attributed with the quality of devotion. Sangha Siddha Bhakti, endeavors associated with or favorable to the cultivation of devotion, and so on. In the realm of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is unanimously accepted as the most authoritative literature, but it was composed in Sanskrit, a nascent language that is comprehensible to very few people in modern times. So, for the benefit of human society, in his Bhakti Tattva Viveka, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur has presented the grave and deep conceptions of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the Bengali language in a straightforward and easily understandable manner. So everyone understood, right? Like I was mentioning, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a book composed by Srila Rupa Goswami, which is the most authoritative literature explaining about devotion. It's a big book. And then after him, years later, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur composed another book called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So Bindu means the drop of the ocean of the nectarian mellows of Bhakti Ras. So in this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur made like a, how to say, like he actually took the most important verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and commented and presented it. So he made like an essence. He took one drop of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but the drop, like he composed this drop of the most important parts. And then he presented is also in Sanskrit, but then Gurudeva, Srila Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he translated this book to Hindi language. And later on, this was translated to English too. So we have this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, very important book, which also Srila Prabhupada Swami Maharaj also did as the nectar of devotion. So we have that book in English, so it's available. You can also read in PDF. Very, very important. So, but this book originally was in Sanskrit. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, this Bhakti Tattva Viveka here is like the essence of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in Bengali, so that everybody would understand. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur is an intimate eternal associate of the savior of the masses in the age of Kali, Satchidananda Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After the associates of Sri Gaura Hari, such as the six Goswamis, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj, Sri Narottam Thakur, and Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, after all of them left this world and entered the unmanifested pastimes, the 100 years that followed are considered a dark period for the Gauriya Vaishnava line. So after Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur entered Nitya Lila. This is because during this period in the Gauriya line, no powerful acharya appeared who could carry forward the teachings of Srimad Mahaprabhu in their pure form, as was done previously. As a result, in a short span of time, on the pretext of following and preaching the doctrine of divine love taught by Mahaprabhu, many false sects, apasampradayas, like Aul, Baul, Kartabhaja, Nera, Nedi, Sai, Sahajiya, Sakibeki, Smarta, and Jati Gosai appeared while engaged in abundant misbehavior, began preaching their own imaginary and materially motivated deceitful principles. They defamed Gauriya Vaishnavism to such an extent that educated and respectable people started viewing it with abhorrence. Gradually, the Gauriya conception of devotion began to disappear. So here, Srila Gurudeva is telling us a little bit of the atmosphere of the world when Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur appeared in this world. So this is something very important for us to understand, how after the disappearance of Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladevi Debhushan Prabhu, there was no very powerful acharya in this world to keep the pure conceptions of bhakti alive. So with the influence of time, of the Kali Yuga, these false sects started popping up. False sects in Sanskrit they call Apa Sampradaya. So Sampradaya means group or lineage. Apa means basically meaning of Apa Sampradaya is which is a lineage which is not bona fide. Means whatever they're teaching is not in accordance with the teachings of the Guru Parampara, of the pure Guru Parampara. It's not in accordance with the pure understanding of the Shastras. Basically, it's something that will not take you to the Goloka Vrindavan. Will not. So if you follow this Apasampradayas, you'll not get benefit, spiritual benefit. But they look like externally, you might look like the same or very similar things, but in essence, actually, they are very much different from what we practice, what we should practice, which is pure devotion. So at some point, the thing became so big that people like of value in society, respectable people, they look down on the Gaudiya Vaishnavas because of these people who are actually calling, calling themselves Vaishnavas, but not following proper rules of the society, not following a good behavior, not having good character. So they would like defame the Gaudiya Vaishnava image. So gradually, the Gaudiya conception of devotion began to disappear. But then what happened? At this time, in the year 1838, Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur auspiciously appeared in a well-educated and cultured family in the village of Birnagar, which is near Sri Navadvip Dham in West Bengal. By compiling approximately 100 authoritative books on the science of bhakti in Sanskrit, Bengali, Hindi, English, and other languages, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur ushered in a new era in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, new era, and reestablished its lost glory. For this great effort, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas will remain eternally indebted to him. In the modern age, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur set in motion once again the Bhakti Bhagirathi, which means the mighty flowing river of pure devotion. And for this, he will well known as the seventh Goswami. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he is the only person known as the seventh Goswami. So you know that after Mahaprabhu, it came the six Goswamis of Vrindavana, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunatha Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gopala Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, were the six Goswamis. But why Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he came many years later, and he was known as the seventh Goswami. So Goswami means someone who controls his senses, which in the highest meaning is like a pure devotee of Lord. So he's known as the seventh Goswami. Why? Because Mahaprabhu gave instructions to the Goswamis of Vrindavan, to the to the six Goswamis. Mahaprabhu gave 4 instructions. That they should establish deities, they should rediscover the pastime places of Krishna, and they should make books about bhakti, especially books also about Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he did that. The same thing. So in the same way that the 6 Goswamis fulfilled the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur also did the same. What did he do? He mainly, one of the best contributions was discovering the place of Mahaprabhu's birth, which was lost. No one knew exactly where was Mayapur, the place of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he was able to give that precision, like where is that place. And so he rediscovered that area of Mahaprabhu's birthplace. He also established deities there, and especially the books. How many books he wrote? More than 100 books we read, huh? In different languages. And establishing pure devotion. And of course, he also brought to this world Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that helped him establish this pure Shuddha Bhakti. And so Bhaktivedanta Thakur is known as Bhakti Bhagirathi, means he set in motion. The Bhagirathi means the Ganges River. So this flow of the Ganges River that flows in this world, but the Bhakti River, the river of pure devotion, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he reestablished that, because for these 100 years, the Gaudiya Vaishnava sky was full of clouds. Because of these Apasampradayas, like we mentioned. So this Bhakti Tattva Viveka is a collection of 4 essays he composed originally in Bengali on the deliberation of devotional principles. The first Hindi edition of this material was serialized in issues. The first Hindi edition of this material was serialized in issues from the 4th and 5th years, 1958-9, of Sri Bhagavad Patrika, a spiritual magazine in Hindi published monthly from Shikeshavaji Gauriya Math in Mathura. On the request of our faithful readers and by the inspiration of the present-day Acharya of the Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Bhamana Maharaj, it's now being presented in book form. By the causeless mercy of the founder of the Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti and its subordinate Gauriya Mata branches throughout India, the most worshipful Acharya Keshari Jagat Guru Om Vishnupada Astutarashat Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragana Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Gauriya devotional literatures are being published by the Gauriya Vedanta Samiti. On the most auspicious occasion of the anniversary of his appearance day, this edition is being presented as an offering placed into his lotus hands, Being the great embodiment of affection and forgiveness, may He transmit the potency of His mercy into the core of our hearts, so that we can render maximum service to His innermost desire. This is our humble prayer at His lotus feet. Wow. Lastly, I humbly request the faithful readers to deliberate upon this literature with great concentration. By understanding the true nature of unalloyed devotion, one can relish the ultimate goal of all scriptures, the pure nectar of Krishna Prem as exhibited and preached by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. An aspirant for a particle of mercy of Shri Guru and the Vaishnavas. Tridandi Bhikshu Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayana. The holy day of Shri Sharadiya Purnima, 1990. Shri Keshavaji Gauriya Math, Mathura, Uttar Pradesh, India. Wow. So this was the preface. So Srila Parangurudeva, you can see, he's actually explaining that this Bhakti Tattva Viveka is a collection of essays composed originally in Bengali, made by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And the first Hindi edition of this material was actually in a series, was published in a different series of the issues from 4th and 5th years of Bhagavad Patrika. But by the request of faithful readers and inspiration of Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Maharaj, it became compiled in a book form. And then a very also important point that Parangurudeva is doing here, which actually Parangurudeva, he does in almost all his books. In the introduction, you can see. What is his prayer? He prays that my Gurudev, his Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj, being the great embodiment of affection and forgiveness, may he transmit the potency of his mercy into the core of our hearts, so that we can render maximum service to his innermost desire. So by the potency of Gurudev, he'll give that potency in your heart, in our heart, so that we can actually serve his desire, means fulfill his desires. This is our humble prayer at his lotus feet. So you should always remember, right? Who is doing is Gurudev. Anything good that we do is actually Gurudev's inspiration and mercy. So, and Parangurudeva is saying that if we understand what is true, the true nature of unalloyed devotion, we'll be able to relish the ultimate goal of all scriptures, the pure nectar of Krishna Prem. So we know that Bhakti is transcendental. Bhakti is beyond the grasp of our senses, but the first step, one of the first steps in Bhakti is knowledge. It is. Even though Bhakti doesn't depend on knowledge, the definition of Bhakti says, Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So, Anukulyena Krishna Nushilanam Bhakti Ruttama. What is devotion? Pure devotion is the cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna. Practiced through engagement of body, mind, and words in a favorable way and continuously. So this is Bhakti. And what is not Bhakti? Bhakti is not covered by Gyan, by knowledge, and also not by karma, and is devoid, anabhilashta shunyam, devoid of any other desire than the desire to give pleasure to Krishna. So karma, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam is very important. Means Bhakti is not covered by karma and Jnana, but doesn't mean that karma and Jnana are not there. Especially in the beginning of the practice of Bhakti, it is common for the sadhak or for the aspirant of Bhakti that yes, he has to take shelter of karma and the Jnana. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, no? First Kama Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga. That's the step by step. So which knowledge we should learn? We should learn two kinds of knowledge. Tattva Padartha Gyan means knowledge about the Supreme, about Shri Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And Tvam Padartha Gyan, knowledge about the soul. So we should know that. So the relationship between the soul and God is through bhakti, through love. So we should study that. Yes, we have to study. Means reading books, hearing Harikatha, making notes, again and again reading, because this will create an impression in our hearts of Harikatha, giving strength and nourishing our Shraddha and our Bhakti, and also will give also strength to our intelligence, so that our intelligence can control our mind and help us engage in spiritual practice more and more. So the step to developing in the spiritual life, it is, yes, to come to the stage of Madhyamadikari, which the Madhyamadikari devotee, he has a lot of knowledge of the scriptures. He understands the scriptures. So if we should do that, learn verses, read the scriptures, try to increase our knowledge, this will be very helpful in our spiritual life. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Siddhanta bolia chite na koro alas, jaha hoite Krishna lage sudirida manas. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Don't be lazy to enter Tattva Siddhanta, the conclusion of the scriptures, because only if you do that, your mind will be strong enough to concentrate in Krishna. So that's why we're doing this. Thank you so much, everyone who also here with me. Then we can read this book together with you. I'm very happy for your company. And because actually this book, I have already read this book before, not one time, I think maybe 2 times. Even I helped, I remember translating this book to Portuguese in one of the editions they made. But still, like, our mind, how much you can remember, right? We're not like Srila Bhaktivedanta Vana Goswami Maharaja, who can remember everything he read, the page which is there. No, forget completely. So you have to again and again read, again and again. So now, introduction to the second English edition. Let me see who wrote this. Let's check. Prema Vilasa Das, a devotee. I don't know him. Someone knows him. Prema Vilasa Das. He said, "It gives us great pleasure to present the second English edition of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur's Bhakti Tattva Viveka before our faithful readers. This edition is a direct translation of the Hindi edition, which is directly compiled and translated from the original Bengali by our illustrious spiritual master, Om Vishnupada Shrutarashatri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. The first edition in Hindi was published in 1990 and the first English edition in 1997. Owing to its clear and precise presentation of the science of devotion unto the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna in simple and easily comprehensible language, this small book has long been a favorite of Srila Narayana Maharaj. Quoting abundantly from Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, Bhaktivedanta Thakur shows how to discriminate between genuine pure devotion to the Lord and the many forms of adulterated devotion. This subject matter is particularly relevant in modern times, when the exalted spiritual teaching of ancient India are receiving greater exposure than ever. These concepts explained herein will effectively guide sincere spiritual aspirants along the devotional path by providing them with a clear picture of true devotion and helping them to identify those rare souls who embody such devotion. Wow. Very important. We have to know what is pure devotion, then we can identify which guru, which pure devotee, which devotee we are following that has this kind of devotion. And this book is a favorite of Srila Parangurudeva Srila Narayana Goswami Maharaj and translated directly by him. Srila Narayana Maharaj has a strong determination to see the writings of the great Gauriya Acharyas published in English and widely distributed. This he shares in common with his dear friend and instructing spiritual master, Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who single-handedly and in a relatively short period of time spread the teachings of Krishna consciousness around the entire world. Srila Prabhupada's translations and writings set the standard for the literary presentation of Vaishnava philosophy. And we hope and pray that our current efforts and this volume in particular are pleasing to him, to Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. The second English edition differs from the first in that it has been carefully re-edited for linguistic and philosophical clarity. It also sports a new design and has been typeset to a higher standard. Grateful acknowledgement is extended to Lavangalata Dasi for copy editing this new edition, Rishabdev Das, Shanti Dasi, Giridhari Das for proofreading the final manuscript, to Atul Krishna Das for checking the Sanskrit, to Krishna Prema Das for designing the new cover. and to Bal Sakadas for providing the new photograph of Srila Narayan Maharaj. On behalf of the many devotees serving in the Gurudeva Vedanta publications, we offer this edition into the hands of our beloved Gurudev, Srila Narayan Maharaj, praying that he will always bless us with the capacity to fulfill his inner heart longing. An aspirant for the service of the lotus feet of Shri Guru and the Vaishnavas, Prema Vilas Das. Shri Krishna Janmastami, 20 August 2003. Gopinath Bhavan, Shri Vrindavan. Here, photo of Param Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj, Srila Swami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Srila Pravishtam Vishnupada Satchidananda, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Bhakti Tattva Viveka, Chapter 1, the intrinsic nature of Bhakti. Whoa. How are you feeling so far? So he says, so this now is the Mangala Charan verse, like the introduction verse of this article. He says, Yuga Padarajate Yasmin Bheda Bheda Vichitrata Vanditam Krishna Chaitanyam Panchatatvanitam Swata Pranamya Gora Chandrasya Sevakam Shuddha Vaishnavam Bhakti Tattva Vivekakyam Shastram Vakshyami Yatnataha Vishwa Vaishnavadasasya Kudrasya Kinchanasya Me Yatasmin Udyame Hi Ekam Balam Bhagavati Kshama. I offer obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya, who is naturally manifest with his four primary associates in the Panchatattva, and in whom the contrasting qualities of unity, abhed, and distinction, bhed, simultaneously exist. After offering obeisances unto the servants of Shri Gaurachandra, who are all pure Vaishnavas, I undertake with utmost care the writing of this book known as Bhakti Tattva Viveka. Bhakti Tattva Viveka. Being an insignificant and destitute servant of all the Vaishnavas in the world, Vishwa Vaishnavadas, in this endeavor of mine, I appeal for their divine forgiveness, for that is my only strength. So here Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur is saying, most respectable Vaishnavas, our sole object is to relish and propagate the nectar of pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, unto Lord Hari. Therefore, our foremost duty is to understand the true nature of Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion. This understanding will benefit us in two ways. Okay, let's see. What are the two ways it will benefit us? First, knowing the true nature of pure devotion will dispel our ignorance concerning the topic of bhakti, and thus make our human lives successful by allowing us to relish the nectar derived from engaging in bhakti in its pure form. Secondly, it will enable us to protect ourselves from the polluted and mixed conceptions that currently exist in the name of pure devotion. So we have to remember this. Why are we studying this? First of all, if we understand what is the true nature of pure devotion, so then if we understand, then all the ignorance we have about bhakti will be dispelled. And then we understand the true nature of devotion, pure devotion. We can practice pure devotion, try to practice, and relish the nectar that comes. Because if we practice pure devotion, you will attain divine bliss, ananda, right? We will get to the goal, which is engage in pure bhakti, attain Krishna Prem, the topmost goal of human life, and relish the nectar of Prema, towards Lord. And also, if you know, you'll be able to protect yourself from the polluted and mixed conception that currently exist in the name of pure devotion. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur continues. Unfortunately, in the present day society, in the name of Shuddha Bhakti, various types of mixed devotion, such as Karma Mishra, mixed fruitive action, Jnana Mishra, mixed with speculative knowledge, and Yoga Mishra, mixed with various types of yoga processes, as well as various polluted and imaginary conceptions, are spreading everywhere like germs of plague. People in general consider these polluted and mixed conceptions to be devotion, to be bhakti, respect them as such, and thus remain deprived of unalloyed devotion. These polluted and mixed conceptions are our greatest enemies. Some people say that there is no value in bhakti, that God is an imaginary sentiment only, that man has merely created the image of God in his imagination, and that bhakti is just a diseased state of consciousness that cannot benefit us in any way. This type of people, though opposed to bhakti, cannot do much harm to us because we can easily recognize them and avoid them. But those who propagate the devotion unto the Supreme Lord is the highest path, yet behave against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti and also instruct others against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti, can be especially harmful to us. Wow, this is to highlight in our heart. Huh? So what is our greatest enemy? Is the polluted and mixed conception. Means the greatest enemy is that which appears to be devotion, but it's not. So that's our greatest enemy. Because if you see like some people or different philosophies that they say, oh, bhakti has no value, God is imagination, bhakti cannot benefit us in any way. Like someone who is, for example, sense enjoyer or something which is very like against devotion, we can easily recognize that is not devotion what that person is saying or practicing or that philosophy, and we can just avoid this kind of people and that kind of kata, right? That kind of message. But what about those who propagate that devotion unto the Supreme Lord is the highest path, yet behave against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti, and also instruct others against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti? This can be especially harmful to us because that appears to be Bhakti. They are even saying, oh, Bhakti is the topmost thing, but they are actually following, they are behaving against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti. So that's very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. In the name of Bhakti, they instruct us against the actual principles of devotional life and ultimately lead us onto a path that is totally opposed to Bhagavad Bhakti. Wow. Therefore, with great endeavor, our preceptors have defined the intrinsic nature, Swarupa of Bhakti, and have repeatedly cautioned us to keep ourselves away from polluted and mixed concepts. We shall deliberate on their instructions in sequence. They have compiled numerous literatures to establish the Swarupa of Bhakti, the nature of devotion. Amongst them, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the most beneficial. In defining the general characteristics of unalloyed devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami has written there. So verse 1.1.11. So this verse here is the verse we have to learn in our lives. I don't know, Lalit Mohini Didi, if you have learned this verse. This is like if we have to remember one verse in our life, should be this one. I mean, except of course Mahamantra, and it's like means if we are to learn verses, this is the main one, first one to start, which is the definition of pure devotion. So should try to learn this verse, the Sanskrit, or at least the translation. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. So that's the definition of pure devotional service to Lord. It says, the cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Shri Krishna. Or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Shri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of the body, mind and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments, bhavas, which is not covered by gyan, knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and karma, reward-seeking activity, and which is devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Shri Krishna. This is called Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service. I think we can continue next week because we've been 45 minutes class. I think 45 minutes okay. We can continue next week, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Then we can continue reading more. So I'm very excited to remember all this Harikatha of Bhakti Tattva Viveka, because that's true. One of the most harmful things is something which appears to be Bhakti, pure devotion, but it's not. So you should understand what is pure devotion. What is pure devotion? What is the symptom of pure devotion? What is not pure devotion? What is not Shuddha Bhakti? And in this way, you can progress in our spiritual life. If anyone has any question or anything you'd like to say, comments, corrections, please. Madhubala Didi, Lalita Mohini Didi, Hare Krishna. I think the Sundays, if the weather is good, we might go to the Fremantle Market. We could do some Harinam there. Let me know if you guys can go, like 10 a.m. because that family lives in Fremantle, and you can go to their house later on for a small program. Let me know if this Sunday morning you're free. Can go there 10 a.m. in Fremantle Market, and then a small program. Vanchakalpatarubhya kripasinthubhya chapatitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Jai Shri Bhakti Tattva Viveka ki, Jai Shri Bhaktivedanta ki, Jai Shri Gurudeva ki, Jai.